If you've recently been following my coverage of the the Conservative leadership election, you know that very recently there has been a lot, and I mean a lot, of activity from the Young Conservatives, to a point where I have openly said in the recent Pony Club video, by the way, if you want to go see that, or you are a Patreon, go check that out. We've openly said that these Young Conservatives are revolting, because it's kind of weird that these Young Conservatives, as we also talked about on this week's Sunday Good Morning Walk, they want things, they want policies that the current Conservative Party would never consider in a month of Sundays. And a lot of Young Conservatives are trying to make their voices heard ever and ever more. They are trying to build their voices to be louder and louder during this Conservative leadership contest. And I will tell you now, not a lot. If you look and read what a lot of these Young Conservatives are reading and putting out, and we will be in a moment, not a lot of them really like what the current contenders have to offer. And one of the big key things that the Conservative Party has to solve, if you've been, like me, watching some of the puff pieces about why so-and-so, this person will be supporting this person. You had one recently about Robert Jerrick, also on Conservative Home, saying, this is why I'm supporting Robert Jerrick, because he'll bring back young people. So, okay, what policies are you going to support? And there's nothing for these. It's just cheap talk. And until we actually start to see any policies, there is no chance of the Conservatives winning back any youth support at all. And it is very, very telling when you've got these Young Conservatives who are incredibly concerned about the direction their party is going to go, and the fact that they are ignoring all the warning signs. And once again, I will say this now to any Young Conservative watching: have you ever considered, joining the Liberal Democrats or the Labour Party? Because a lot of you really do sound like you would be better in those other parties than the Conservative Party. But if you are a Young Conservative and you want to have a chat, reach out. I would love to have that conversation with one of you. And just find out what's going on in your movement. I think it would be kind of fun to have. But before we do get on to today's story, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button down below. There's the link to the Patreon page. There's the Buy Me Coffee link where you can buy me coffee. There's the YouTube thank you button. And of course, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on then into this. Coming from Conservative Home by a guy called Toby Berry, saying our next leader must avoid vitriol, but prove that they can fight for Britain. So I love it. He's a Young Conservative and a student in South London. So let's see what he's got to say. So, with the Tory leadership race now hotting up and the contenders now due to be whittled down to 4 in just a month, it is very important to test the battlefield on which they will fight. Much has, of course, been made, as could be expected, of the divisions between the contenders, whether they are the darling of the right or even champion of the centre, and whether they can actually unite the two factions. Accepting that unity is indeed a critical point, we may leave aside and that have all the contenders proved their value. No, you can't. None of these people, none of these contenders have proven they can actually unite these two factions. None of them have proved that as a value. And I'm still shocked no one has really picked up on this. Because I will say this now, at the moment, it's what happened before. They were all round singing Kumbaya, but I'll tell you what, as I've talked about this before, as the fire sort of, gleams around every so often, you'll get a little glint as you catch someone, sharpening a knife, ready for the inevitable bloodletting, because they are ready. They are ready to go to war against one another. And bear in mind, it has been very much the right who has been in charge very, very much so since Boris Johnson. They have been the ones in the driving seat, pushing out, and destroying Theresa May, forcing David Cameron into doing the Brexit referendum. At some point, you have to wonder, when are the centrist conservatives really going to wake up and just go and attack their right wing? Like, just start putting, guys, the blame where it is due, and that is very much on your right wing of your party. Maybe it's time to deal with it once and for all. But to do that, they know they would have to have a proper, good old, knees up down the pub, and fight it out. But they don't seem to want to do that at the moment. But they will have to, because these two sides cannot coexist. For all the talk of unity, both sides are just so fundamentally different that they will not agree. So back to this. So he says, what we must now look for more closely at, however, is the ideological weighing. There seems to be a very dominant view in the membership of the party that Reform UK must be dealt with first by unifying the right. This is a clear appeal to the adage that a house divided cannot stand. Many of us know people, each with good intentions, who say that when we must defend the centre to avoid the vitriol associated with the right, the two are by no means mutually exclusive, and although common attitudes seem to hold them thus. Again, he's pointing out to the fact that everyone thinks, oh, we've got to defeat Reform UK. So how do you defeat Reform UK? The answer just seems to be copy them. But Sunak did that a couple of times. You've seen this happen, try to ape Reform UK, and yet has it worked? No. If anything, what has happened, anyone who wants to vote for Reform UK, well, they've gone and voted for Reform UK. And then the rest of your party has either been, this is getting a bit too extreme for us. This is putting us either voting off the party, and either A, did not turn out to vote, or went and voted Lib Dem or Labour in the last election. They deserted your party. You'd think that would be your primary point of view. And once again, it's not Reform who the Conservatives should be scared of, because who did they lose more seats to? They lost more seats to the Lib Dems than they did to Reform. And yet, to win back the right, you have to pursue policies which your centrist voters do not like or want. So if you try to unite the right, you lose the center ground. You can see there is no one who really understands this at all. But hey, it's just, the continuing disaster that is the Conservative Party at the moment. It is funny to watch. So anyway, he continues. He says, the remedies for our woes is now found in neither the abandonment of the right nor in mirroring the grandstanding of Reform UK, but in undertaking now a fundamental conservative values of the establishment of a composed image. So look good without really talking about it. Is that your idea? It seems to be. The debate in the party currently over the fundamental values of conservatism will now steam ahead. Each contender will decide their exact interpretation, and we should take some comfort in the idea that all six now agree on the basics. I don't think they do, but there you go. They will debate more about the nuanced values and are now willing to work with people who do not share the rest. Have you paid attention? Has this guy paid attention to the Conservative Party for the past couple of years? I don't think so. The aforementioned fundamental values assured now in the principles of competition, and the opposition leader must also fight them, saying a willingness to put forward their head above the parapet and a boldness now to attack on the fundamental flaws of Labour, alongside the Liberal Democrats, Reform UK, and others. Although many will think this rather obvious thing to say, I do feel it is a necessary basis for what I say next. They must not be hostile. Good luck, because Kimmy Badenoch is going to be incredibly hostile on that. He continues saying, we need a fighter, not a butcher. Many in the party do worry that Robert Jerrick, Kimi Badnoch, and Priti Patel will have fight in them, but rather too much of a fight that people may not very far off of these three on the political spectrum find themselves running headlong away from them for fear that they will be very vitrolic. They absolutely will. And Robert Jerrick won't, by the way. Robert Jerrick, oh boy. There is a reason why he's called generic Jerrick. Patel's not a chance. The only person really you have there is Kimi Badnoch, but Kimi Badnoch is known for this. The exact thing you are talking about now is Kimi Badnoch. And really what this guy is saying, I am worried we're going to elect Kimi Badnoch and she's going to be far too vitrolic, which again, she has a history of. There are a lot of moments you can point to Kimi Badnoch of being very, very like that. So, yeah, good luck. Anyway, conversely, there may be more who stand more with Jerrick, Badnoch, and Patel. Do worry that, of course, Tom Tugendhat, Milstride, and James Cleverly will be at least milk toast, perhaps even Sunak-esque, and will not be able to make a stand against Labour. Aside from the concerns that it will also now serve to dampen the fire on the right of our party and in reform. So, again, I think the Conservatives could very easily defeat Reform UK, but it all comes down to policies, and it's what policies do they actually pursue. So far, no one is talking about policies. They are all being so nebulous, and I'm shocked no one has actually called them out on this yet, but there you go. What can we actually deduce from all these fears? It doesn't seem too great a stretch to say that these people just want a normal leader, someone who fights for their conservative principles and does so with gusto. What they do not want, however, is somebody who marches under a banner of the right of the party while ranting and raving about boldness, certainty, and rapidity. Certainly not. You are going to get that. This guy. This is really what this is. Again, is this is please don't elect Kimi Badnoch, but it's not specifically targeting her. It's saying, hey, please don't please don't target her. Please don't elect her without saying it. Then this is very telling, this part here. Many people I've spoken to, conservative or otherwise, have said that some of the candidates in this leadership race do make them uneasy. We need to listen to their concerns. We must ignore the stuck premise that this is a race is between the center and right policy, or right policy, which it absolutely is. That is exactly what this Conservative leadership election is about. Both can win elections, and both are now broadly acceptable. No, the right policy, as we've seen very recently, cannot win elections. We know they can't. Boris Johnson probably did it best with probably the most certain centrist, right centrist policy ever, and managed to maintain this balancing act. But when it actually came to do it, which was the policy, he failed spectacularly on. So too did Liz Truss and then Sunak as well. None of them could follow up on that manifesto of which Boris Johnson had been elected on. Even if, let's say, Boris Johnson, let's say like Boris Johnson scandal proof, like none of the scandals had happened. You look at politically what Boris Johnson would have achieved. COVID would have been a disaster. Leveling up still wouldn't have happened. And you already saw very, very much, very quickly, Boris Johnson losing massive in popularity. The Conservatives were on a downward swing. They would have still lost, even if Boris Johnson had been there. Because I always said it back then, and I will say it again, Boris Johnson had a balancing act that he could not maintain. And trust me, if we were in, the election just a few months ago and it was Boris Johnson, he still would have lost. He still would have lost quite significantly. But back to this. We need to understand that once and for all, that centre-right politicians can win so long as they prove that they are willing to fight for Britain, and that right-wing politicians can also win so long as they prove that their fight will not descend into vitriol. I love it. So you need to to in this guy's view, to win as a centre-right politician, you also need to, quote, "fight for Britain," which basically means getting yourself involved in all these culture war stuffs, which fundamentally scares away centrists and other people in your party. But if you are on the right, then you can't descend into vitriol, which is what they more often than do. This is just such a confused young conservative. But there you go. Anyway, the task now at hand for each conservative, therefore, has multiple faces. Firstly, they must actually provide that they can actually unify the two wings. No one has actually proved that at all. Secondly, they must make the case that their policy is best. No one is talking about policy at all either at the moment. But perhaps the most important, they must now make it clear that they are fighters, not butchers, and being bold, not rabid. Um, Good luck, because you are about to probably elect Kimmy Badnock. In the next couple of months, you are going to elect Kimmy Badnock. Good luck. And of course, no one's commented yet, which is a shame. But yeah, young conservatives, they are so confused. They are so confused about this situation. And yet, that guy, really, what he was writing in the article is, hey, we can't be vitriolic. We can't go and engage hardcore in these culture wars. But who are you going to elect? You've just said that his three candidates, really, there, Priti Patel, Generic Jarek, and of course, Badenoch. What are they most known for? um, Honestly, young conservatives are in such a tizzy at the moment, and I think you are going to see them go, I think, to a full-scale revolt. I really, really do. I think this is a faction we haven't really considered what part they might play in not only potentially in this leadership contest, but maybe even in the ongoing, shall we say, conservative civil war, because that is where we are now. You are trying to elect a leader and you are saying, oh, we're all unified. Meanwhile, of course, you've just got Bob Blackman in the middle threatening people with yellow cards and a strongly worded letter. Well, trust me, when it gets whittled down to four, I think that's where we're going to start see some attacks takes place, because you've got to stand out. If you want to get to the final two, you've got to stand out. Even more so when you get to the final two and you've got to perform for the Conservative membership. So trust me, it will not be long before that happens. And of course, apparently, you're going to take a I don't know, there's going to be some form of punishment, but Bob Blackman did actually say what that form of punishment was. It was going to be a yellow card. And then what? What does that yellow card actually mean? What happens if you get so many yellow cards? Do you get a red card after like two yellow cards? What does this strongly worded letter actually mean or say? You know? There is really no threat. There is no reason for these to go for it. But at the moment, they are going for some sort of civility, because at the moment, all the Conservatives are agreed that they mustn't fight at this moment in time. But trust me, they will. They will absolutely start fighting each other. This whole idea that everyone can be a unity candidate without actually talking about how they intend to unify both the right and center right of the parties, it's going to be a glorious mess. It really is. It's just going to open such a wonderful way. And then, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. But trust me, glorious continuous content during the silly season indeed. But as always, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think down below. What do you think to this very poor, confused young conservative? Let me know what you think down in the comments. And of course, as always, Do remember to hit the like and share on the way out. And of course, we'll see you all next time.